Hello and welcome to this edition of the Halcyon podcast, and what will be the last Halcyon podcast / show for a little while. I'll discuss why later, although that's the least salient aspect of this podcast. As I promised at the beginning of the week when I did my PWT podcast, there would be two, one focused solely on wrestling, the other about a few things I wanted to talk about. And this is that podcast. So, a couple of things. Get to the personal nitty-gritty and we can get that out of the way and we can get to the stuff I want to talk about. A couple of months now, I've been really angry as a person. Just very unsettled, very disgruntled, very agitated, very just unhappy with a lot of things. And I find that when I get angry, I get things done. There's a certain efficiency to my attitude, but unfortunately it has the undesired quirk of also closing doors and alienating people. What I also find is when I get angry or when I'm raging against the world, I don't listen very well. I don't listen to people. I don't take in things like I should. I disregard things I shouldn't. And I've been feeling this way for a while now. Why is this relevant to the Halcyon show? Well, Halcyon and YouTube is an outlet for me. It's an outlet for my creativity. But it's also the way I try to be social with people. And the social reward is meeting new people, interacting with new people, and having a meaningful dialogue and a meaningful exchange of ideas. A couple of things have happened over the past couple of weeks that have kind of shed light on the fact that maybe I shouldn't be doing Halcyon right now because it's not healthy for me right now. There have been a million YouTubers I've seen who go through, not burnout, I wouldn't, YouTube isn't hard physically. I don't know why people sometimes talk about YouTube in the sense that it's very taxing physically, because yeah, the editing process does take a long time. I've seen it asked a million times on other different channels. Well, it depends on the kind of content. I can render a podcast in 5 minutes. A Halcyon can take as much as 2 days to fully edit. That's not including filming and setting up and then rendering and then uploading. To get all the resources down and to retake things and re-record things if they don't come out right. And anything in between. So, you know, that's part of the course when you're making YouTube content. What the taxing thing about YouTube is how invested you personally become in the response. Because the response is a reflection of how people see you. It's partly down to the content, and that's where the content creator has to own what it is that they're putting out. If they're putting out content that they think is watchable and other people aren't watching, then it's the content creator's decision as to whether or not to continue to pursue that style of content or whether or not to try and endear themselves to other people. Example of this would be, recently I had a conversation with one of my little brothers. They're a target demographic for things like YouTube and Facebook and even Twitter to a certain extent, and most media platforms and most gaming platforms, I would argue, are probably aiming their products towards that 18-year-old to 24-year-old who have a abundance of spare income and spare time, given the fact that they don't really have a discernible goal in life. My little brother's a prime example of this. Very talented young man, very intelligent young man, but sorely lacking in any kind of discernible direction. So fills this time with a lot of meaningless stuff. I was the same when I was a kid, except for I knew I wanted to get into work. I wanted to start earning some money. So there's a bit of a difference there. I don't necessarily sense that capitalistic side in him that was with me. But back to the point. That demographic, I would argue, are the ones that have their fingers more closely on the pulse than most people. And I had a conversation with him about my channel. Now, forget the fact that we're brothers. Forget the fact that we're supposed to support each other in our mutual endeavours or in our individual endeavours. He hadn't watched a show of mine in months, perhaps nearly a year since I was there in Australia. And I asked him why. He gave me some answers, and it was broadly speaking, you don't make stuff I'm interested in. I go, okay. What else? And he goes, because I want to take as much criticism as I can. So what else? you're releasing stuff that's kind of the same over and over again. It became a bit repetitive. Okay, what else? You know, I watch things for specific reasons and you don't fulfill that niche. And I'm like, okay, fine. That's cool. So then I have to self-evaluate. Do I want to surf around on YouTube and find something that's similar and try and have a take on that? Or do I want to carry on making stuff that makes me happy? Or with YouTube, it's not about what makes you happy. Yeah. If I was going to give advice to people about being a YouTuber, I think one of the things that I would say as a piece of advice is don't be yourself, at least not straight away. Because you need to build an audience. It doesn't matter how... As much as I've tried to kid myself in trying to make my content better, I've gone from doing it ad-libbed to writing out scripts, to writing different types of scripts and trying to write them in more interesting ways, including more information or adding more funny or more jokes. I've tried editing styles, I've tried lengths of videos, I've tried covering current topics, I've tried covering classic topics, I've tried top fives, and I've tried podcasts, and I've tried all sorts of different things, and put them in playlists. But here's what I've found about YouTube. The consumer is lazy, incredibly lazy, because all of the criticisms I've ever had leveled against my channel, for instance, I usually say, but I do that. Oh, you don't, you videos are too long. I make 5-minute videos, dude. They're called blinks. Well, yeah, well, you cover the same things over and over again. No, I don't. Podcasts, I tend to talk about more social issues or more deep topics. Blinks, I tend to talk about things on a whim. You know, I might have seen something that week or played something that week and I want to just talk about it while my thoughts are fresh on the issue. Razor reviews, I tend to go in a bit more detail. And the Halcyons, I just go fucking bananas. I just go balls to the walls, as much information as humanly possible. Every single impression, thought, a worthy piece of information that I can think of, I put in a video. And that's why they typically between half an hour to 45 minutes to nearly an hour long. So I'd like to think there's something for everyone on my channel. But the problem is that I am not getting over. That I can take to a certain degree, I guess. Recently though, I've had to try and reevaluate what I want to do with the channel, because I do want to make it a success if I can, but then I have to look internally about me as a person, because the content creator is, the channel's a reflection of the content creator, and I as a person right now, just a tremendously angry and frustrated young man, and I'm finding myself getting into conflicts and arguments and disagreements with people. And the problem is, I don't think I'm wrong when I'm arguing with people. I just think that the fact that I'm so quick to anger, it disarms anything I have to say, because that anger intimidates people. I know that they wouldn't ever admit it to me, but I've always, and this might sound big-headed, I don't know why, but I've always had this talent for having, it runs in the family, where we become mean bastards when we're ticked off, when we feel like we're not being listened to, or we feel like someone's being stupid, and we're struggling to get our point across. And this demeanor has sort of taken over me to a certain degree. It's shown in my tweets, it's shown in my content to a certain degree. I think a couple of shows I've done recently, I've really tried hard to be a bit more flamboyant and a bit more over the top and a bit happier. That hasn't led to an increase in the views, because people found it entertaining and then they then shared it with their friends. You know, so that feeds into the frustration. It's just a self-revolving door. And what the long and the short of it is that social media I find to be a very cruel mistress. YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, whatever. Either you're in or you're out. And at the moment, I'm very much out. This is going to be a podcast I was going to do before I realised I wanted to just include this all in one big hit, because this is going to be it for a while. So, you know, I hope you've enjoyed you know, what I've done up until this point, and this podcast, because this is all you're getting for at least a while, those of you who've chosen to tune in, of which I'm entirely grateful. But social media I find to be, it robs people of their individuality. And from the get-go of this channel, the first few podcasts, when I listen to them back, and I do, I preach about, look, I'm trying to talk to you listening to this right now, whatever you're doing, whatever you're in the middle of, I'm talking to you. I'm not talking to 100,000 people that I think are then going to share and like and buy my fucking merchandise and recommend me to their friends, and trend on fucking whatever. I'm talking to you because I feel like the more educated every single one person is, and the better dialogue that every single one person is, the level of appreciation can increase, the amount of good, solid conversation, and the amount of the quality of our interactions, be it content creation, be it interaction in the comment sections and on Twitter and on Facebook, will increase and improve. Exposure to it, though, has worn me down, because it's just the amount of times I think that I'll have a good point on Twitter and no one likes or retweets. It comes back to the YouTube thing. The amount of times I put out what I consider to be a really good video, I'm really happy with it. I'll put it out there, and it's well put together. I've addressed some of the issues. Typical example, the top 5s list. People can get a gist of what the show's going to be about from the title, because the list gives the clue away. You're not quite sure what you're going to get, so you tune in for thing by thing. They're usually 15 minutes long, no longer, which is not the shortest video in the world, but it's not a million. It's you could get that, you knock that out in your break time, on your lunch break or something. I've gotten rid of the intro, because people were complaining about having a long intro, even though they sit through fucking television intros that are 30, 45 seconds long. All this jazz. And it's not been reflected. Why? Because the viewers are comfortable enough to watch it in the seclusion of just a comment or a like or a view, but that's because it's a self-contained bubble. It's a sphere that sits itself within that sphere. Once you gain enough momentum and people are happy to throw their voice behind you and to support you in that manner, then you get the people that the hangers on, and they're hanging on to the train, and they're hanging on to the momentum. It's much harder to come across the people that are willing to help propel you and your dreams and your hopes, assuming that you're willing to fulfill your end of that mutual contract by providing them with good quality content, stuff that they like, stuff that they enjoy. And it ultimately comes back to you. You can't blame the consumer for not liking what you're doing. I can't blame people for not watching the channel. I can't blame the fact that when I put it on YouTube or Twitter that the people... I have 100 followers on Twitter. I have 147 odd subscribers on my channel. I don't know how many friends on Facebook, but my videos get routinely 15 views, 20 views. Occasionally I'll hit a nick, and there'll be a bit more traction within other markets or demographics, and that's fine, but it's frustrating to me, because you have to ask the question, why aren't people, number one, prepared to watch? Why are they tuning out entirely? And why aren't they prepared, when they do tune in, to share it with their friends and to say, hey dude, this guy is great? Now, why do I get frustrated in particular with YouTube and a lot of the content creation that goes on there? Well, I share the shit out of content creators that I come across that I like. I'll scream it from the rooftops. There's a few, and as a matter of fact, at the end of this video, there's going to be some thank yous to a few people who I want to mention specifically. But I don't find the same happens with me, and there's a reason for that. It's because, well, one of three things. The association with me is negative, which I can totally understand and appreciate. I wouldn't associate with me if I knew me. Number two, the content is not that entertaining. Or number three, they feel that their friends and family would be disregarding of the content that they're liking and subscribing to. But this feeds back into my point about, well, in an individualistic world where we think and act for ourselves, we don't think en masse, thinking that we're being individual, this sort of shit wouldn't happen. But because there's pressure, and because there's this will and want to like things that other people like, and this will and want to be behind things that ultimately will get traction, they know they'll get traction, it's not a waste of time, it's harder and harder to justify spending time on it, because it just leads into more and more frustration. Now, only YouTubers in particular will understand this really. People who are on social media like Twitter, who only have a few followers, it's very easy to actually get some traction. I find it very easy to get some traction with people interactions-wise, in terms of just throwing out a very I'll have to admit this now, because I think it's only fair that I do, that I can be antagonistic on Twitter. I don't think there's any way around it, and I don't like that. I don't like that it's gotten to that point that I have to almost take the contrarian opinion just to try and get a response out of people. And that's where you get people like the Pauls, I think that's what the fucking brothers, who just do shit to piss people off or do shit to shock people. It's how you get Kardashians, who are just dumb, stupid, fucking made in Chelsea, fucking all the rest of that lowest common denominator bullshit that I fucking despise. And that's the point. In order to be able to get ahead in the game, you have to play by the rules of the game. I don't like the game anymore. Not right now anyway. It's making me very angry. It's making me very disgruntled. Social media it's a disarming, it disarms you as a person. All it helps do is help grade you as in terms of your social compatibility. That's it. It doesn't empower you, as some people might think, unless you're part of that fucking tidal wave of opinion. It doesn't enrich your experience, because ultimately all you're doing is you're listening to non-stop opinion. An opinion is the lowest form of human intelligence, the lowest form without fail, because it's not rooted necessarily in fact. It's rooted in feelings, and that's fine to a degree. Sometimes you need to lean on your feelings, but more often than not you do need to lean on facts and what is real, and social media does not promote these things. YouTube is a competitive space as well, and I don't like how I'm being forced to rethink things that I only ever wanted to make YouTube videos to be creative. But the only reason why one wants to be creative is to express oneself, and the only reason why one wants to express oneself is to have a reaction, is to have people take on board that opinion and that expression of oneself. When it's roundly ignored, that form of expression becomes meaningless. So what am I doing instead then? Instead of spending 15-20 minutes complaining about the fact that YouTube isn't fulfilling me right now. A couple of real small things. I'm going to get back to training. The reason my voice is a little bit raspy, and the reason why I'm currently propping one of my hands up, is because I'm training. I find it helps focus the mind. I find that there's truth in the pain that you go through when you train, assuming that you're willing to put in the effort to train hard enough each time and to get past that initial motivation hump that everyone goes through when they start training. They feel like a fucking gym god when they start, and it's great and everything, but then you look in the mirror and you realize, oh wait, no, I'm still a fat piece of shit. You got to push through that, and then you got to push through the next phase where you can't stop seeing yourself as a fat piece of shit, and then you get to the end. The end bit being that you're thin and in shape and everyone likes you. Because unfortunately, by the way, that's another thing that I fear that will I will come back. I am coming back to YouTube. This isn't a goodbye. This is just me signing off and trying to be courteous to the people that have deigned me worthy of your time. Of which I don't want to piss on the people that have watched my shows and listened to my podcasts and supported me in however they wanted to or could. It's more, I realise the fact that my presentation style doesn't lend itself well in the best of situations. So the fact that I'm so overweight right now is not easy for people to watch. So by taking a few months, 6 months maybe, to try and get into some shape, to lean down a little bit, look a little bit healthier, feel a little bit healthier, clear out the cobwebs in your mind, clear out the cobwebs in your body that make you feel like shit, then I feel that I'll be better for it. So what's the point of this podcast? A couple of things. Number one, to say thank you, which I'll do in a minute. Number two, to touch on a couple of those issues with YouTube and social media. Number three, to get off my chest the fact that I've been angry, and to say sorry to anyone who I've had interactions with recently where I've snapped at you, where I've been very voracious in my point and insistent. Although saying that, there's a reason I get angry sometimes, and it's because I'm provoked. So maybe not assuming 100% responsibility here, maybe 90, 10%. 10% needs to go to the people to say, well, maybe you need to rethink what you said. Because the chances are I've had a long time to think about what I said. I'm not sure people would have done the same. I don't know. We'll see. That's not to anyone specific. Before, do you know what? I hate this explaining culture as well. When someone says, no, don't worry, I'm not necessarily saying blah, 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 blah. If I said something, that's what I mean. If I didn't say it, that's not what I fucking meant. So that's not meant at anyone specifically. It's a generic thing. Hence, see, I'm getting hot right now. I'm healthy. It's not good to get hot. Just something silly like that. But anyway, point being, I wanted to get a few things off my chest. And again, not to do the giant throw the toys out of the pram bollocks that I sometimes see some YouTubers do. I wanted to try and give a nuanced and thorough explanation of what's going through my mind, because it's my channel, and again, it's my form of expression, so it's how I tend to vent. As far as the videos are concerned, I've decided to pull the schedule, so all the videos that I promised, again, what a piece of shit I am, every Monday and Wednesday up until December. No, they're done. They're coming down. The reason for this is because what I will probably end up doing is I will take some time off now. I will YouTube and Twitter and all that bollocks. I'm going to try and leave as much as I can. And when I'm feeling better and when I'm feeling more motivated to endure the trials and tribulations of YouTube and all that shit, I'll be back. I will, depending on whether or not he'll have me, and that's a big question at this point, over on Defunct Games channel run by a pal of mine, Cyril, I'm still hoping to do the mailbag. Now I think the idea there is to do a show every 2 weeks, so you know, fingers crossed, assuming I don't slip up and call him a cunt at some point and piss him off, then hopefully I'll still be on his channel, but we'll see. I don't trust myself to make that promise right now because I seem to be pissing off everybody. But nevertheless, if you, if anyone is listening to this who still wants to occasionally see your old boy, Lonely Boy, I should still be on Defunct Games once every 2 weeks. I will preface though, I am not the main attraction. I am simply there as a mediator, as a moderator, as somewhat of a producer type character. I'm really only there to set up the pins for the big man, for him to knock them down. I will try and air an opinion, but my role there is more to assist in what I consider to be one of the best content creators on YouTube, explore another avenue of video type so that he can better express himself and express and have a better connection with his audience that I think his audience really appreciate, judging by the first video that we did. There's a couple of kinks in that video that I wasn't particularly happy with that I'm hoping will work out for the second video on my side of things. So long story short, if you still want to get a fix of me for whatever reason, I'll be over there every fortnight, potentially at least for another couple of weeks. As far as this channel is concerned, again, I'm thinking I'll probably leave things now until after winter. We'll see. It might be January, it might be February when I'm back. We'll see what happens. The main reason why it's so long is, and the reason why I think that talking about me being angry and the social media thing and YouTube blah 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 is important. And the reason why I'm doing this in one last podcast is simple. I think I've lost the ability to listen. I think a lot of times these days I'm hearing people, I'm taking on board part of what they're saying, but I'm in attack mode constantly. So I take what I need from what people say and I just go with it. And that's not a healthy attitude to have. Because then you do two things. Number one, you disregard a lot of what people say, and I find that silence is the most important part of any conversation because you don't learn anything when you're talking. And I've been doing a lot of fucking talking recently. On Twitter, on here, on my show, on my podcast, pontificating to people. If I really believe in people's, the individuality of people, and the common sense and hopefully the intelligence of people, I need to trust the fact that they're clever enough to work a lot of this shit out for themselves. They don't need me to spoon feed things to them. I want to get back to listening, And I want to get back to talking about things I like and being positive and being happy. And that's going to take a certain degree of dissociation with this whole business. Again, I don't know if anyone who's not a YouTube... If you're not a content creator, I don't know if you'd necessarily fully understand this. It's hard to justify saying, well, I'm going for a while. You'll miss me when I'm gone. Well, it's not to make anyone miss me or to punish anyone for not watching, because no one's watching anyway. It's a bad tactic. It's to try and reconnect, try and build up a bit of distance between what I've done in terms of content, which has fallen below the bar in terms of quality and in terms of how people feel about it. Go back to me as a person, enjoy some time, focus on other things in my life, focus on me, my body, my mind, my soul, my spirit, hopefully build up some positivity in my life, and then come back being able to share it with all of you, being able to add something to the interweb that is positive, that is good, that is funny, that is interesting, is anything. I wanna, if you wanna put a word to it, I want to get back to the Halcyon days of Halcyon. Yeah, there's a segue. I want to get back to the Halcyon days of Halcyon, when I just used to sit in front of a camera, put up the videos, scared to death that no one was going to watch, and then just worry about making the next one better. Instead of now, which is I'm just trying to get the views up, not necessarily worrying about whether or not the shows are any good. So, flaw in my logic there. And I think the way to do that is to listen, to shut up for a bit, to take stock of things, to assess things, and then come back, hopefully better than ever. But we'll see. We'll see. It's, absence doesn't make the heart grow fonder on places like YouTube. You get forgotten quite quickly. But sometimes in life you've got to be prepared to take a step backwards in order to take a step forward. So we'll see how things go. So, as promised, there's a couple of people I would like to extend my gratitude and thanks towards. Specifically, people that have bothered to tune in, irrespective of my constant beratement of my channel and my insistence that you shouldn't watch. So, first and foremost, there's a gentleman who has only recently started tuning into the channel. He's someone who's hopped across from Defunct Games, Angelo. Gent I've been corresponding with in my comment section. So I appreciate Angelo for tuning in and giving me a watch over the last. Apologies that I'm going to be cutting you short. I've got 200 odd videos though to choose from. So and chances are you're not going to find anything there that's trendy. So hey, if you watch these shows, I'm sure you're going to like some of the previous ones. GFY Productions, Craig, guy's a pal, so it's not just a thanks as a content creator to a viewer. It's a thanks from a buddy to a buddy for someone who's constantly been watching my videos, constantly been watching my channel, constantly been sharing. We've collaborated on a podcast. If he even wants me to come on his show, I'm talking directly to you now, pal. If you want me to come on your show and do a podcast, I will come on your show and do a podcast, okay? I don't think that counts as content creation in my book. It counts as hopefully two idiots sitting down and having an idiotic conversation, the kinds I like. So, a massive thanks to him. He's one of the best guys on YouTube. He's such a fucking legend. Tevye Smolka, sexy bastard. He as well is perpetually in my comment section. His channel's blowing up, by the way. I would suggest if you want to get on a bandwagon, you need to get on his, because he's going to blow up real soon. He's going to hit 1,000 subscribers, and then from there he's going to be going to the races. So you need to go check him out. But thanks very much, Tevye, for tuning in. Thanks for conversations and comments and shares. Who else? Let's keep going through. I'm going to get this right. Melgasios, annoying accent reviews, but I call him Melga for short. Melga, you sexy git. Thanks very much for tuning in. Thank you very much for the comments. on Fortnite a few weeks ago. I always enjoy your content. Your content seems to be getting better and better. Your subscribers better start fucking reflecting that, because you're making some good. Again, I prattle on about checking out some of the content creators in the description. He is in there. You need to be going and watching his stuff immediately. If you are not, then you're missing out. Bobo, my little brother, he tuned in recently. Fortnite. My brothers weren't very happy that I did the Fortnite episode before I gamed with them and we actually fucking won a game. So I feel bad for them. The one time that they actually bothered to tune in, and they feel like somehow I've let them down because I didn't want to because I didn't include the win with them. So never mind. Who else we got? Mike Brock. Mike, see you occasionally on Twitter, brother. I haven't seen you much on my videos, but it's appreciated that you gave the watch. I think it was the Joker one that you tuned in and had a look of, and of course Defunct Games, Cyril. We chat a lot these days, so we'll see what happens as far as his show is concerned. All I can say with him is that the poor git puts up with me more than most people really should. I can't pay anyone a higher compliment than that. He's able to tolerate the insanity that is Lorne Risley. So there we go. So aside from the people there who have commented, anyone that's deemed me worthy of a watch, even if you tuned in for 30 seconds and got bored, I still appreciate the fact that you took the time to click on the video. Anyone that liked the video recently, I really appreciate it. I hope that in my absence from YouTube, that you are taking care of yourselves. I hope that your lives are good, that you're doing everything to enrich your lives. I hope you're being good to the people in your life. Speaking as an abject outsider, someone that is a quintessential loner and a recluse, someone that is so fucking lonely that he has to invent a YouTube channel in order to give himself some fucking company from time to time. I hope that if you do have someone special in your life, that you are fucking cherishing them and you are lavishing them with your love and your attention as and when they need it, and as much as they can tolerate from you. So I think that's it. I think that's everything I wanted to talk about on this podcast. I certainly feel better. How do you feel? Want a cigarette? No, me neither. I don't smoke. So there you go. So this has been the Halcyon podcast. So thank you very much for listening. I want to ask you to like, share, or subscribe. I think that defeats the purpose of the object to the point. I'll just say thank you very much for listening. Just again reiterate, go and watch all these are the great content creators. All the people that I've mentioned there are content creators in their own right. So please go and check them out if you haven't done already. And if any one of those people are listening, I hope you're subscribed to everyone else's channels and you're checking them out and supporting them, because you have no idea how much one person's support on another person can make. All of you who I've mentioned have had an indelible impact on me wanting to make content. When my friends, a lot of my family have decided to not tune in and offer me the support that maybe I could have needed, and maybe I would have made me feel a little bit better about what I'm doing. In those times, the comments and you guys have meant the world to me, so I really appreciate that. So thank you very much for listening. Take care of yourselves, and yeah, I'll see you on the next episode of Halcyon.
Thought I figured out I just wasn't made for degrees. Went home, then I went back early 14. All my friends had new friends and I lived off campus in a dingy apartment on a twin bed mattress. Sucked, but I kept my grades up for a bit. I would kick it with some homies every now and again, but the Laramie cold was keeping me inside, and I was smoking on the green when I needed to write. Wasn't able to sleep or even